Hey y'all, welcome back to Fruit Friday. I'm your host Maddie or Yajai in Thai, and I am so excited for today's episode because I feel like we're finally getting into the heart of what this podcast is all about, which is the unspoken challenges that come with moving abroad, moving to a new place for the first time by yourself. But first, this is Fruit Friday, of course, so let's get into our fruit. Our fruit this week is snakefruit, and I never even knew that snakefruit existed until I came to Indonesia to do that study abroad program. And if you've ever seen snakefruit growing before, it grows on a stalk, and then off the stalk there are multiple teardrop-shaped fruits. They have a brown snake-like skin texture, and there's little tiny hairs sticking off of them. And if you peel off that brown skin, you're left with this fruit on the inside. And some of them have, kind of two nodes stuck together like that, and some of them are just a single pod. But either way, you bite into it. There's a seed on the inside, and I swear these taste like Smarties. I don't know if that's a very American candy, but I used to love Smarties as a kid, and I think that they were mimicking the flavor of snakefruit. Delicious. Now, like I said, the first time I had snakefruit, I was in Indonesia on this study abroad program, and I had never seen snakefruit before, so obviously I didn't really know how to open it or how to eat it. But thankfully, my ibu, or my mom of the homestay I was staying in, was there to help me. She peeled the fruit for me, and she told me to dip it in this delicious, spicy, sweet, sour dip that she had made. I think they called it rujak. If you're Indonesian or Malay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the name. And it was fantastic. So when I moved to Thailand and I saw snakefruit being sold for the first time, I got super excited because I was like, I want to eat that fruit again. I love snakefruit. I'm so happy that I discovered it. But when I bought the snake fruit and brought it home, I started trying to peel it, and the spikes on that fruit were so sharp that they were literally slicing my fingers to shreds. Like, it was so painful that I think I got into maybe one or two pieces and I gave up. I was like, you know what? Maybe the snake fruit's not for me. It's not worth it. And I was kind of confused because I didn't remember the snake fruit in Bali having any of those spikes on it, but this one was extremely spiky, and I don't know if it's just a different breed, different species of snake fruit or what. But I was like, you know what? The snake fruit's not for me. So I actually ended up bringing it to the Muay Thai gym that I was training at. And I gave it to my trainer because I thought maybe they'll want to eat it, but I can't do it. And he did something that blew my mind. He took all of the little knobs or little teardrops off of the stalk, and he put them into a container, put a lid on the container, and shook it really vigorously until all of those little spiky hairs came off. And then when he opened the container up, he took out the snake fruits, and they were completely smooth. I mean, they were rough still, the snake skin texture, but there were no more little prickly things, so he was able to open them pain-free. And this blew my mind because I would have never thought to do that, but obviously it was a trick that he had known for a long time, and I'm sure many Thai people and many people that are familiar with snake fruit have learned because obviously they want to enjoy the fruit without the pain of trying to open it. And I think this is a great example of one of the many small, tiny things that come with moving abroad and having to be a beginner again. When you move to a new place, especially if it's a place that's unfamiliar to you or a place that's really different from where you're coming from, there are so many different things that you have to encounter and learn about for the first time. This can show up in big ways like learning a new language or learning how to drive in a new place, and it can show up in really small ways like encountering new fruits that you've never seen before and not knowing how to open them. And regardless of what you're experiencing, you have to embrace being a beginner again and know that you will learn and be more comfortable in time, but it takes just that time. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic.
It's Fruit Friday, yeah, let's take a bite. Life's sweet and sour, take it slice by slice. Humor, heart, and wisdom, served just right. Laughing, learning, loving too. Fruit Friday's here with the juice for you.
Now, I want to start this episode out with a story, surprise, surprise, about my very first night in Bangkok, because I don't think that I've ever told this story before, but I realized kind of recently that my experience was not unique. My sister had a similar experience when she moved to Colorado for the first time by herself just last year, and it made me realize that we don't talk about this enough, and I think it's really important we do so. The night I arrived in Bangkok, like I said, I came through Explore Asia, which was an agency that helped set me up with a job and everything. But before that, they help you coordinate your flights, they book you a hotel for the first night, and then they take you through a week-long orientation. So on the first night that I arrive in Bangkok, I show up. It's probably about 5:36 p.m., so it's just around sunset time, and it's kind of a rainy, gray evening. But I get in the taxi that they had arranged for me, and the taxi takes me to my hotel. And as we are driving to the hotel, I am so overwhelmed by just everything, you know? All of the signs are in a language I don't understand. The city is the biggest city I have ever seen. For those of you who don't know, I grew up on a farm outside of a small town, which was neighboring a very small city, Rochester, Minnesota, if you're familiar. And the biggest city I'd ever lived in was Minneapolis, which in terms of city sizes is very small. So seeing Bangkok for the first time was a shock. Not to mention just all of the different sounds and seeing the way people drive, and the smells are different, the people look different, just everything. It was so overwhelming, it was so overstimulating, and it was raining, and I just felt like I was going to be swallowed up into this big monstrous city. And in that moment, I was really terrified. So when I finally got to my hotel, I paid the taxi driver, I went inside, and I just dropped my bags on the ground and kind of collapsed onto the bed. I was so exhausted physically from being on a 24 or 27-hour travel journey, and also just from experiencing so many new stimulus in a matter of that 40-minute taxi ride. And I think that sounds dramatic when you say it, but I'm the kind of person that gets overstimulated when I get home and I can't find my keys in my bag, and I'm holding my phone and a coffee in one hand and trying to get my keys out with the other while I have to pee a little bit. Like, that is enough to make me cry and just really frazzle me and work me up. So experiencing Bangkok for the first time, you can imagine how that made me feel. So I'm in my room. At this point, I'm supposed to have a roommate with me, but for some reason my roommate didn't show up. Thank God they didn't, because I needed to have a mental breakdown right then and there in peace, alone. But I took off my clothes, I got in the shower, I cleaned myself up, and then I just laid in bed and I thought, you know, I'm hungry, but I don't know where to go, and it's raining, and I don't even know what food is around me. And I was just so overwhelmed and so intimidated by the city that I decided I was just going to stay in my room for the night, and I would, you know, go out tomorrow when I had the orientation. And so I think I had some granola bars in my bag. I ate one of those for dinner. I opened up my laptop and I started watching Jane the Virgin on Netflix, which is a show that I had just started watching before I left. And I watched that until I got so tired that I wanted to go to sleep. But I remember as I was trying to fall asleep, the rain outside picked up, and at this point, it was full-on thunderstorm. And if you've ever experienced a thunderstorm in Bangkok, it is really frightening, honestly. The thunder is so loud, and it shakes the whole building, and the lightning lights up the entire room that you're in and the entire city. And, you know, maybe this was just my first experience with a tropical thunderstorm, but oh my God, I was terrified. I was so scared. I'm laying in my bed, curled up in the blankets, and I'm literally thinking to myself, like, what have I done? This is so scary. I'm never going to survive. Why did I move here alone? I shouldn't have done this. What was I thinking? And just like, I was overwhelmed with anxiety and fear, and I just burst into tears. And I think I cried for a couple of hours. I felt so many emotions in that moment, and I was just filled with regret and dread and uncertainty and fear and like all of these negative feelings. And I was so scared. And obviously I didn't want to, I don't know, talk about it or call someone and tell them I had regretted this choice that I made, because I feel like I had just arrived, and I don't really know what I was thinking. But I didn't feel like I wanted to call home or call a friend or call my program coordinators. I just wanted to be alone in that moment, because I thought that I had made a mistake or I had done something wrong. But I think that that's not an uncommon experience. And not to say that that happens to everyone, but I do think that when you really have that moment where you come to the realization of where you are and what you've done in the terms of moving to a new place by yourself for the first time, it can be really scary and it can be really intimidating and make you feel really lonely. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's not normal. So I think that we just need to make space for those feelings and understand that it's part of the process, and not psych ourselves out if our initial impression of a place or our first day in a new city is not all like sunshine and exciting rainbows, okay? Because it can be really terrifying. And it's not just the first night. This time outside of your comfort zone can continue for days, weeks, even months into your transition period. And I think that that is totally normal. And it's something that, again, I haven't talked about very much because I didn't really start sharing a lot about my experience in Thailand until I had been here for 5+ years. But to take it back to my first week in Hua Hin, I was clinging so hard to whatever semblance of comfort zone I could find because, again, I was terrified to be in this new place by myself. I'd say the first week was okay because I was with the program group. I was with other teachers that were coming and, everyone was speaking English. They were kind of holding our hands through how to plan lessons and how to show up at work on our first day and how to drive a motorbike and how to order food and just like how to exist in Thai society. And so that felt comfortable because my schedule was structured for me and I had other people around me that were going through the exact same situation. So that felt comfortable enough. But then they arranged the job for me. They helped me find a place to live and they dropped me off at my apartment by myself and basically just said, good luck. Call us if you need anything. But that was it. And that first week by myself was kind of a mirror image of that first night in Bangkok. It was terrifying. I was scared to go outside. I didn't know what to do or where to go. At this point, I was adamant that I was not going to drive a motorbike because I thought motorbikes are dangerous. Too many people die in motorcycle accidents. There's no way I'm going to get on a motorbike. I'm going to walk everywhere. Spoiler alert, that didn't last long, okay? Walking in Thailand is really not a thing. It is so hot. You walk 100 meters and you feel like you just got out of a swimming pool. So more on that later. But for that first week, I would walk to school. It took me about 10 minutes. I was really only maybe 800 meters away. Walk to school, go to school, come home. And I would eat dinner at the restaurant across the street, okay? So that was all that I could manage in that first week was school, eat, home, school, eat, home. And on that first weekend, after my first week of school, I thought, okay, I need to get out of the house. I need to do something. Maybe I should go to the store and get a few things for my place because I was living in a very basic apartment, very bare bones. It was basically a square room, white walls, white tile floors, rock hard mattress. All I had was a small vanity where I could sit and do my makeup and a wardrobe. Nothing else in this room. Bathroom, little outdoor balcony area where I could dry my clothes. 4,000 baht per month, which is a little bit more than $100, but nothing fancy, okay? Bare bones. So I decided I was going to walk to the shopping mall and I was going to buy some things for my place. That was my mission. And I walked all the way there. I think it took me 45 minutes and it was dead hot. I was so hot. And by the time I got there, I went into Tesco Lotus. I bought a blender, a plastic chair, and a little TV stand and a shelf to put some of my stuff on. So I was like, okay, that's going to furnish my apartment. And I think I got a taxi back to my room. And again, way overstimulating, too much for me, again, not knowing the city I was in, not being able to read any of the signs, not being able to understand any of the people that I interacted with. It just was all a little bit much. And I doubted myself and my ability to really fit in and find a home here. And we'll get into more of that later in this episode about how I integrated. But to wind it back and to wrap up this story, I brought all this stuff back to my apartment and I sat there. And for the next week, I again went back to my comfort zone. And I did manage to rent a motorbike because I got tired of walking to school. So I had arranged with one of my colleagues to get a bike rented. And I actually still have that bike to this day. Side note, Rosie, I'm in love with her. We have a special bond that can never be broken. But I would drive to school. I would come home. I would eat at the restaurant across the street. And I would go back to my room and I would watch Jane the Virgin until I had to fall asleep. And I was really surviving on the oatmeal and granola bars that I'd brought from the US and the bananas that I had bought from a shop on my way to school and that Tom Song restaurant across the street, which was not really a fun existence, but it was what I was comfortable with. And like I said, I was clinging on to that comfort zone because I just didn't know how else to go into this unknown world because I was 21 at the time by myself, just really scared. I finally had to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't live my whole year like this. And I didn't want to live my whole year like that, but I needed a little bit of a push. So I made a deal with myself and I said, okay, you're running out of oatmeal. You're running out of granola bars. You can't live on that forever. Once you finish Jane the Virgin, I'll allow you to finish Jane the Virgin. But once you finish watching Jane the Virgin, that's it. You need to go out. You need to push yourself to integrate. You need to make the most of this experience, because I only had a year in my mind at the time. I only had a year to enjoy my life in Thailand. I needed to make the most of it. And so that is when I decided to make a change. That is when I decided to intentionally leave my comfort zone once more and really integrate into my life in Thailand. Now, obviously, my efforts were successful because I've now been living in Thailand for over 6 years, and as you can tell, I speak Thai, I have many Thai friends. I'm doing great, okay? I'm living my best life here. But that's because I made an effort to integrate into Thai society. And today I want to talk about my tips for integrating into a place, regardless of where you are in the world, so that you too can find a home wherever it is that you decide to move. My first tip, and probably the most important, is make an effort to learn. When we are adults, I think we often forget that we are still able to learn and expand our knowledge and our understanding of the world around us. I think it's really common to stop learning once we graduate school. Once we finish high school, once we finish our university, we kind of think that we know everything that we need to know, and we forego opportunities to expand and to learn more things. And when you move to a new place, especially moving to a new country or a place with a completely different culture than what you're used to, learning is so important, and there is a huge learning curve that you need to tackle. But the thing is, no one is going to force you to do this learning. So you have to take initiative and take on that learning for yourself. It is not the responsibility of the local people to teach you the language, to teach you the culture, to make you feel welcome and invited into this space. It is your job to make an effort and to take the first step. And it doesn't mean that people won't be supportive of you and won't help you, but you have to take the first step. So if I can give you advice for learning in a new place, learn the language, learn the culture, learn about the local community that you're in. When I started learning Thai, I was learning from my third grade students. They would stay after school for homework club, and they'd have to do all of their homework. And if they finished before the end of the time, I would allow them to teach me Thai, which they loved doing. So great motivation for them to finish their work, and also great for me because I was getting free Thai lessons. But I would write down lists of all the words that I wanted to know, things like colors, days of the week, numbers, foods, emotions, activities, etc. And I would bring out the list at the end of homework club, and they would come around my desk and tell me the Thai word. They would write it in Thai. They would sound it out for me and help me pronounce it. And then I would take those words home, usually about 10 or 15 per day, and I would make flashcards. I would study them in my room. I would study them with the Thai woman that was working at the restaurant across the street, just to kind of build up my base vocabulary. And that got me so far, just because I was able to start recognizing words in conversation. And my second tip for learning a language is to listen constantly. You always, always, always need to have your ears turned on, and you need to be listening carefully anytime you hear the language that you're studying being spoken by native speakers. Because I think one mistake that a lot of people make when they're trying to learn a language, or not even when they're trying to learn a language, but just one mistake people make in general when they're living in a place where their native language is not the common language in the place, is they tune out whatever they're hearing if they don't understand it. So many people come to Thailand, for example, they don't understand Thai. So when they hear Thai speakers talking around them, they just tune it out. They accept that they don't understand it, and they stop trying to listen. And that is the biggest mistake you can make. You are getting free listening lessons, free language lessons every time you step into a space where people are speaking a language around you. And even if you can only understand a handful of words, it's so important to listen actively and try to pick out even the smallest words and phrases until you can build an understanding. You know, it's like how a child learns a language for the first time. They're just exposed to it constantly. And I think the best way to learn a language is by existing in a space where that language is being spoken. So I was listening to my students talking with the Thai teachers. I was listening to people talking at restaurants. I was listening to the trainers at my gym converse with each other. You learn so much more in that way than you do reading books or trying to watch videos online, because you really aren't exposed to it in a natural setting, if you will. So, learning the language. That's my advice. Listen to it, practice it whenever you can. When it comes to learning about the culture and learning about the community that you're living in, ask questions, be curious, show an interest in the things that are going on. Again, it is not the responsibility of the local communities to welcome you in and to make you feel comfortable and to make sure that you understand what's going on. But oftentimes they are more than happy to invite you and to share with you if you show an interest. So ask questions when you see things happening and you want to know more. Smile when people are smiling, laugh when people are laughing. Show an interest and be curious when you see people eating new foods or trying new drinks or doing an activity that you've never seen before. If you show that you are interested in something that is deeply cultural, I almost guarantee that the people there will be willing to share with you, because people love to share their culture. I'm sure that you do too. I'm sure that there are things, there are foods, there are games that you would love to share with someone if they were to show an interest in it, but you're not going to go out of your way to say, hey, I don't know, what's an example? Like when I was a kid, I always loved to play Old Maid with my sister. That's a classic American card game, but I'm not just walking around the street being like, hey, play this game with me, you know? But if I was playing the game with my sister and you walked up and you're like, what's that game? I would love to show you, because people love to share their culture. People love to share things that are meaningful to them. And in Thailand specifically, that's food. Thai people love to eat. Eating is a huge part of Thai culture. Snacks are being shared, drinks are being shared, food is being shared constantly. And if you are just willing to try something new, willing to take a bite of something unfamiliar that you haven't seen before, Thai people will continue to feed you and feed you and feed you until you can't eat anymore. They love to share their food. They love to share their culture. And this is not exclusive to Thailand. I think this is true in many places. So regardless of where you want to live, just show an interest, show gratitude. Even if you don't love the experience or you don't love the thing you try, the fact that you were willing to try it and the fact that you accepted it graciously and with a smile is a huge step towards integrating into a new place. So that's my first tip. Make an effort to learn. Second tip is to integrate with intention. So what I mean by this is don't just walk out onto the street and see what you stumble upon or just expect that you might find something. You need to be intentional about stepping into this new space, into this new world, and making specific efforts to do things. And this is exactly what I did when I decided that I was going to make a change, because I think if we just say in general, yeah, I'm going to integrate, yeah, I'm going to go check out the local communities, we don't really have an idea of what that looks like. And if we kind of go in blind hoping for the best, I think we miss out on a lot of things. So what I did, and what I recommend you do if you're exploring a new place for the first time, is to make a list of things that you want to do, little goals for yourself, and then go about checking off those things one by one. So for me, this looked like saying, I want to go to a Muay Thai gym. I'm going to do a Muay Thai class. I'm going to go get a massage. I'm going to find one new coffee shop and go have a coffee there. I'm going to visit this night market and have dinner there one night. I'm going to go to the local market and buy the foods, and I'm only going to speak Thai. I'm only going to speak with the words that I know. I'm going to go to a restaurant and I'm only going to order things that I can order in Thai. Things like that, making little challenges for yourself and little opportunities for you to apply the things that you've been learning is such an important and powerful way to integrate into a new place. And don't get me wrong, this can be intimidating, this can be scary, and you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. To give an example, the first time I tried to go to a local Thai market to buy vegetables, number one, I was terrified because I walked in and I was the only foreigner there. A girl with white skin and blue eyes and golden blonde red hair walks in. Like, people look at you, and it's part of the life, and it's something I've gotten used to, but you do feel kind of isolated. You feel like an outsider because people are like, what is she doing here? And it's not a mean look or a look of disapproval. It's just a noticing that you're different. And I think that can weigh on your conscience a little bit. So I was already intimidated to go into this market. I go up to this woman. I see cucumbers. I want to buy cucumbers. I had learned the word for cucumbers, which was dang toa, and I learned how to ask how much and the numbers. So I take the cucumbers that I want, I put them in the basket, I give them to the woman, and I ask "Taurai ka," which means how much in Thai. And she responds to me by saying "Yibha bat," and I immediately went like deer in the headlights. I was freaked out because I didn't know that number, and I was really like disappointed in myself because I had prepared so hard for this moment and then I didn't understand. And I just looked at her like, I don't know. And she said it again, "Yibha bat." And I was really racking my brain, like trying to figure out what she was saying. And I didn't recognize the number. And finally she said "Yisibha bat." And that was a number I recognized. The word for 25 is yisibha, but she shortened it to yibha, which is actually a very common shortening of all the numbers in the 20s. And again, not something I learned in a book, not something I would have learned from watching a YouTube video, but something I learned from real life practical experience. And while I know that kind of seems silly to be all worked up and uncomfortable about that, it was a really intimidating moment. And there were so many moments like this where I had to try my best to use the language. I had to make mistakes. I had to have people correct me. And all you can do is laugh about it, but you have to keep trying. Another funny example is one night, the guy I was dating at the time, we were at a somtam restaurant, which is where they make papaya salad. And I really wanted to have tam khao pod, which is spicy corn salad, one of my favorites. And I was telling him what I wanted because he was going to go and order. And I kept saying, I want tom khao pod and khao niao, which in my mind, I thought I was saying corn salad and sticky rice. But the word for boiled and the word for salad, tam, are different slightly. So to him, he was hearing, I want boiled corn and sticky rice. In my mind, I was saying, I want corn salad and sticky rice. So this man leaves the restaurant we're at, walks around the surrounding area until he could find a boiled ear of corn. And he comes back to me with this boiled ear of corn and sticky rice. And he's like, here you go. And I was like, what the hell is that? And he's like, it's what you asked for. You asked for tom khao pod. And I was like, no, I didn't. And then we went back and forth and we had this funny realization that I had been pronouncing it wrong, and that small mispronunciation gave me an entirely different outcome, not the outcome that I wanted. And again, I just had to laugh about it. And these are the types of things that you have to keep practicing. You have to keep making an effort to integrate because it's the only way to learn. It's the only way to increase your comfort level. So yes, tip number 2, integrate with intention, make your list, set your goals, and then check them off. Number 3, and this one I cannot overstate how important it is, but in the beginning, when you are new to a place, you need to say yes to everything. And I mean everything. Every invitation, every offer, every opportunity, you got to say yes. Obviously, unless it conflicts with like your morals or your religion, whatever. Say yes to everything. Even if it's an activity that you know that you're not going to like, even if it's going to a place that you don't think is the place for you, even if it's with a group of people that you're not super keen on meeting, just say yes. Because the thing about invitations is people only extend them so many times if you keep saying no. If someone invites you somewhere and you say no the first time and the second time, they're not going to invite you a third time. If you say yes, these invitations might keep coming. And you might be thinking, well, what if I don't really care for this person and I don't want to be invited? Doesn't matter, because you don't know who else might be at this function. You don't know who else they could introduce you to, and you don't know what opportunities or connections could stem from your one simple yes. And to give a little example of why this is so important, I want to talk about the butterfly effect. So the butterfly effect is something that I've been seeing a lot on my social media lately, and it's just about this idea that one small choice or decision can have a ripple effect on the rest of your life, or like the trajectory of an entire chapter. And I think this was very true for my time in Thailand. So about 1 month after I arrived at late October, so mid-November, one of my colleagues had invited me for a Thanksgiving dinner at a local American bar. And honestly, I was not interested in going because I wasn't much of a drinker. I had just left the US, so I wasn't really looking to celebrate Thanksgiving, and I didn't think the food would be that good. And also, I didn't want to hang out with a bunch of Americans because I was like, I'm in Thailand. I want to meet new people from new places, not just surround myself with everything that I'm used to. But despite all of that, I was in this headspace of, okay, no, I'm in a saying yes era right now. I'm saying yes to everything. And even though I don't really want to go, I'm going to go anyway because I was invited, and I need to say yes because that is how I'm going to find community and make friends. And I went to this party, and it was kind of as I expected. The food was pretty much gone by the time I got there, and most of the people there I really didn't have an interest in speaking to, or we didn't really have much to connect on. Plus, I wasn't drinking, as I said, so it just, like, the party itself wasn't that fun for me. But I did meet this one really cool girl, and we had a really nice conversation and a good connection, and I felt like that alone made the night successful because I had connected with someone and I thought, okay, this could be the start of a friendship. That's great. Fast forward to a few weeks later, I had been going to the Muay Thai gym a bit more consistently at this point, and I had asked one of my trainers if he would take me out to the bars one weekend because I wanted to go see what the nightlife scene was like, maybe meet some more friends, whatever. And what I didn't realize was by me asking him that, he was under the impression that I wanted to go together, like I was into him and we were going to be on a date. So we get to the bars and he starts putting his arm around me, he starts trying to kiss me, and I was really like, oh, no, thank you, I'm not into that. But he, was just trying to continue to advance on that path. But lo and behold, while we are sitting there at the bar, I see this familiar face walk by. It's the girl from the Thanksgiving party. So I, without thinking, jump up out of my seat and I chase her to the toilet because that's where she's headed. And I was like, oh my God, hi, do you remember me? Blah, blah, blah. We start talking and she was like, oh my God, yeah, so nice to see you. I'm actually moving back to the US tomorrow. It's my last night in Thailand. And I was like, oh, like sad. This girl that I thought was going to become my friend is leaving. But she introduced me to her friend, Ruby. So I started chatting with Ruby. We exchanged contact information and our friendship blossomed so quickly. We were such fast friends and we were so similar in so many ways. And Ruby is still one of my best friends to this day. She lives in the UK now, but I've gone back to visit her a couple times. And we just spent like every day together from the time that we met. Okay, this was right on the cusp of COVID. So we were going out together to the bars before COVID happened. We were eating dinner together multiple nights a week. We were working out together, going on runs together, hanging out at each other's apartments. We were just having so much fun and we became such close friends. But the only reason I met Ruby was because I had chased this girl that I had met at the Thanksgiving party to the toilet at the bar on a random night. And had I never met that girl, had I never gone to that Thanksgiving party, I probably never would have met Ruby. And to take it a step further, on one of the other nights that Ruby and I were out at the bars, we had met these two guys and we weren't really interested in these guys, but they were offering to buy us drinks and we were having fun. So we got to chatting and we kind of became friends, acquaintances with one of the guys who had been living there for a long time. And again, because this was COVID, there weren't many people around, so we ended up running into him quite often. He would meet us on the beach, we would go out for a couple drinks, whatever. One day, he texted us and invited us to come join him on another beach because he was with a friend and he wanted to go kite surfing, but he didn't want to leave this friend by herself. And we were kind of on the fence about it, but we said, like, you know what? Yeah, there's nothing else to do, and the drive to this beach is really beautiful, so let's just go. So we drive 30 minutes to this other beach, and we meet our friend and his date. He was on a date with this girl, and he wanted to go kite surfing, and he was just going to ditch the date, which this guy's not that impressive, okay? Whatever. But the girl that he was with was super cool. The girl's name was Choco. She is one of my best friends, Thai. She introduced me to so many amazing Thai foods and pieces of Thai culture, and I think made me fall in love with Thailand and has kept me here longer than I ever really expected to be. But we spent that day on the beach just like talking and laughing and filming TikTok videos. And again, we became such fast friends. And for the weeks and months that followed that, we were spending every weekend going on little road trips, exploring different areas around Hua Hin where we were living at the time, and just creating so many memories and like really deepening my appreciation and my love for Thailand. And she ended up starting to date this guy named Ollie, who they just got married in Georgia. I just went to their wedding. So I got to watch their relationship start from the beginning and become really good friends with Ollie and another friend of his, Zach. And so the four of us became this really close-knit community during COVID. And we spent literally every day together, playing pool together every night, going out to eat all the time, going on little trips together. And, it was through these ripple effects that I found a sense of community. And I think that's the point of the story. That's the point that I'm trying to make here is your yeses at the beginning hold so much opportunity and so much power. And that's why it is so important to say yes. And not every yes is going to be a success. Not every event that you go to is going to be super fun. Not every group that you meet is going to be a group where you feel that you fit in. Not every person that you have the opportunity to be introduced to is going to be someone you connect deeply with. But you have to keep trying in order to find the places that you do fit in. And once you do start to find your groove and you find your communities and your spaces where you start to feel at home, then you can be a little bit more selective about your yeses and your nos. Because again, once you find a sense of community and once you feel like you belong in a place and you have people around you that you genuinely want to connect with, then you can be a little bit more intentional about how you spend your time. But in the beginning, especially if you're in a place by yourself, say yes to everything, try everything. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what new passions you might discover or hobbies you might want to try or foods that you want to eat or people or places that you want to go. Like, you just don't know. So just say yes. Now, to kind of underline everything that we've talked about today, I want to go back to this idea of being a beginner, because I've been hanging out with my friends who have babies a lot recently, and it's been really cool to observe their kids and see how they explore and experience the world. And I think the way a baby or a young child experiences the world is very similar to how an adult experiences going to a foreign place for the first time. Because kids just go into the world with their eyes wide open. They are curious about everything, about every sound, every smell, every sensation, everything that they can touch. They just want to explore it all. And they're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to try everything because they want to know. They're curious. And they make mistakes, they fall down, they learn, but they get back up and they keep trying again and again, because that is what learning looks like. And when you move to a new place as an adult, you have the opportunity to kind of have this experience again. You get to enter this place with your eyes wide open. You get to be exposed to so many new things and try so many new things. And I think it's really important that you embrace that, embrace being a beginner again, and embrace those learning curves, because it's a really cool opportunity and not everyone gets to experience that. I think as a beginner and as a learner, it's really important to listen more than we speak and ask more than we tell. And these are two ideas that I'm going to share a little bit more about next week, because they come from a resource that's very near and dear to me that I learned through my leadership minor. So I'm not going to get into that too much today, but I think it's just very important, like I said, to be open, be curious, ask questions, and be excited about your opportunity to learn and expand and evolve. Because again, not everyone gets the opportunity to do that. And one of the most beautiful things about moving to a new place is the evolution that happens, the personal evolution, because you do not go to a new place and expect the people and the society to bend to fit you. You adapt and you evolve to fit into the place that you are. And that's incredible. And just a note on that, I do think that it's true that not every person is a good fit for every place. You might go to a place and realize that it's just not your city, it's not your country, it's not where you're meant to be, and that's okay. But I will add a caveat that it takes time to feel a sense of belonging, to feel like you are at home somewhere. For me, I think it takes over a year to really feel like I belong in a place. I had the same exact experience when I moved to Hua Hin for the first time as when I moved to Samui. It wasn't until I had hit that like year and 2 months mark that I really started to feel a sense of belonging and to feel like I was part of the community that I was living in. So if you are someone who's moving abroad for the first time, moving to a new place, and you feel like you haven't quite found your groove, you haven't quite fit in yet, give it time. I promise it will happen. I promise there are people there that are your people. I promise there are activities there that are your activities, but it takes time to find them. And like I said, you have to keep putting yourself out there. You have to keep trying new things, saying yes to things, integrating with intention in order to find them. And if after a while you decide, hey, I've gotten what I can out of this experience, but it's not for me and you want to move on, that's totally fine too. But really set the intention to integrate and to explore the place that you're in and enjoy the journey of beginning again. And don't psych yourself out if you feel nervous or lonely or uncomfortable or uneasy. It's all part of the process, especially when you're integrating into a new culture, something that is completely different from what you know. These feelings are normal. And we're going to talk a little bit more next week about cultural integration and the right and wrong way to approach it. But for now, we're out of time, so I want to leave you with a little fruit for thought. Okay, so chances are if you're listening to this podcast, you either are considering a move abroad, you have recently moved abroad, or you've been living abroad for a long time. Regardless, my question for you this week is, what is one thing that you can do to integrate with a little bit more intention? Is it accepting an invitation to go somewhere that you've never gone before? Is it trying a new food? Is it making an effort to learn a new language? Is it attending a cultural event? Is it inviting someone into your space and sharing time and energy with them? What is it? What is one thing that you can do to integrate into your world more intentionally, and how are you going to make that happen? I want you to think about that this week. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fruit Friday, week 4. Again, I am Maddie, or Yajai in Thai. If you like this podcast, please give it a rating of 5 stars. Leave a comment, like, save, share with someone who you think might like it too. And don't forget to join me next week because, again, we'll be talking about cultural integration, the right and wrong ways to do it. And Fruit Friday will be having its very first guest, my best friend Maggie. You guys are going to love her. I can't wait to introduce you to her. But for now, happy Friday.
Take one last bite of that juicy slice. Fruit for thought, sounding oh so nice. Human heart of wisdom, served just right. Laughing, learning, loving too. Fruit Friday's here with the juice for you.